The other one's a real quick one, how to put it together.
Okay, cool. Do we care which order? Bracketing
Yes.
first.
Yeah, it's the longer one of the two, I think, the first one.
Right. Now, I seem to remember that last time I tried to share this, it didn't work very well. We couldn't run it in full screen, I don't think. Okay, bracketing. There we go. You guys see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Exposures at different brightness levels for a variety of bracketing. We talked about doing this manually before, but a lot of cameras will have an automatic option for you to shoot a variety of exposures at different brightness levels for a variety of reasons. It might be because you're just not sure what the right exposure is going to be, and it's better for you to shoot a wide selection and then take it home and figure it out later. Some of you, though, might be using HDR photography, where you're combining photographs of different exposure values into one completed photograph. So when it comes to exposure bracketing, there is often a lot of different options. So I'm going to tell you what some of these options are, and then what I recommend and what I use for my photography at least. So you can shoot anywhere from 2 to 9 exposures in these automated bracketing modes. Now you can manually bracket if you want, but automatic bracketing is kind of nice because what happens is that when you press down on the shutter release, if your camera's in the continuous motor drive, it fires through all the shots as quickly as it can and then stops. So it'll do all 5 shots, for instance, just boom, 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 and then it stops right away. And in every one of those, it's changing everything that it needs to adjust. So it can be very quick and easy to work with. And so we have 3 exposures, which is kind of a traditional bracket, but now people are doing all sorts of things with their images, and so you can go from 5, 7, all the way up to 9 exposures. The exposure increment, how big a difference from one image to the next do you want? With modern digital cameras, it makes very little sense to bracket by 1/3 of a stop. There is so little difference, you're not going to see much difference. You can adjust modern digital images quite a bit, and so most photographers are bracketing by 1 to 2 stops between exposures. The shooting mode, you can be in program, shutter priority, aperture priority, or manual in this case, and it depends on what you're doing. I tend to like aperture priority here. If you want, you can add exposure compensation onto the mix. If you're capturing 3 images and you don't want the middle image at 0 EV, you could dial it up to +1 or down to -2 or wherever you want so that you're getting that group of images either brighter or darker than necessary. And you might need to do that depending on the situation that you're in. The drive mode can be in single or continuous. I often like it in continuous for the reason that I mentioned, is that the camera will shoot to it very quickly and just automatically stop. When I have the camera in the single mode, if I have it set up for 7 exposures, I have to make sure I count 1, 2, 3, because I want to know when I'm done. I don't want to finish at 6, go on to take another picture, and that's actually the 7th picture of a bracket series. Some cameras will give you the option of auto cancel. And this depends on who you are. Are you the type of person that likes to bracket a lot? And in which case, you would turn this off. If you're the type of person like me that just does bracketing once in a while, I'm going to bracket once and then turn it off because I don't want to leave it on, because then the next 5 pictures I take are all going to be of these different exposure levels. And so some cameras will offer that as an option. Some of the more advanced cameras will also give you the option of which order that you can shoot these images in. And there are some cameras that give you a really weird order that when you look at it, once you've downloaded the images, it makes very little sense to me. I'm not going to name brands here, but there's one of the cameras that shoots the 0 first, and then it shoots the -1, and then the +1, and then the -2, and then the +2. And when you see these all lined up, you kind of lose track of where you began one and ended the other. So a lot of photographers who do this on a regular basis like to change this to light to dark, because then it's very clear. When you shoot a series of 5 pictures, it's going darker to light, darker to light, darker to light, and it's very easy to separate them. And so the ones in the red squares are the way that I normally set my camera up. 3 or 5, I've done a few 7, I guess, if I really needed something wide range. 1 stop EV, I usually don't ever go less than that. I like aperture priority because with a bracket series of photographs, this generally only works with non-moving subjects. Because if it moves, it's going to be in a completely different place in every single photograph. And so this works for static type shots, landscape, architecture type shots, and depth of field is usually more important in those types of images. And so aperture priority works well. I'll normally have the exposure compensation in the middle. Auto cancel on, that's just because I don't shoot a lot of bracketing. If you are doing a lot of bracketing and you're working on, let's say you're working real estate and you're photographing a house and everything you shoot is a 7-stop bracket series, turn that auto cancel off so that you don't have to keep going back in and turning that feature on.
Oh, that's it. That was rather abrupt, wasn't it?
Exposure bracketing. We talked about doing this.
Okay, that was a rather abrupt end. Took me a bit by surprise, even though I'd watched it. So questions on that particular one?
Yeah, and again, what the bracketing does, it allows the camera to automatically adjust the shutter speed so that it gets an image that it believes is correct, and then maybe an underexposed image as well as an overexposed image. And then in software, you can bring that together and it will bring the best of each one of the images together into one image, which the next video is going to show a little bit.
All right. The other thing I would make a point of, he says you can vary your aperture. I would never do that because your depth of field will change between images. So the one thing I disagree with him on is any variation in aperture at all. I would choose the aperture that you need for the depth of field that you need and then stick to that. And I'll move ISO if I'm forced to, but usually I just change shutter speed. The other thing that he mentioned in there was using exposure compensation to move the start point, as it were, whether you're on a perfect exposure or plus or minus, as to where you want your center image, i.e. the correctly exposed one. On a Canon, you can move that. You can set that so you don't need to use exposure compensation. You can just set the setting where you want it and it'll calculate from there. But I thought he did a decent explanation, a little rapid. A little rapid, but Bill, you sent, yeah, you did send out the link because I'm using your email for the links. Okay, so HDR. Okay, it doesn't like that. Let's refresh that.
This is a real B&H customer story.
Oh,
Jack and Barbara, professional wildlife photographers and B&H customers.
Thank you.
They love their commercials.
Let's share that one. That was a British technical term, by the way, that bugger off, for those of you who don't know. Okay, you got it?
Yep, this guy talks a little fast and he's full of energy.
This is a relatively
that's
short
not
one.
advised, but don't. I had to do it. I had to show you. It's completely unrelated because it's 2 Minute Tuesday. Let's go. What's up, everybody? Peter McKinnon here, and welcome back to yet another 2 Minute Tuesday. Today's episode, we're talking about HDR photos. Last week, we talked about shooting in log format, picture profiles, and using flat profiles to get more dynamic range. So I figured this week, let's tackle kind of the opposite within the photography world and getting that same dynamic range to really get incredible looking photos using what photographers and we call HDR, which is high dynamic range. So that's today's topic. We're going to dive right into it. Let's put 2 minutes on the clock and let the games begin. So once you have Lightroom open, you're going to want to import the photos that you're going to use for that HDR. Now, like I said, an HDR is made up of a set of photos taken at different exposures. So it could be 3 shots, 5, 7. In this case, we have 5. So we have one that's underexposed, a little less underexposed, somewhere in the middle, overexposed and then completely blown out. But we're going to take all of the values from all these different shots through these different exposures and smash them into one super photo. So have the first photo clicked, hold shift, click on the last photo, right click, come up to photo merge and HDR, and you're pretty much done at that point. Lightroom makes the HDR at this point right here. It auto aligns it, it auto tones it, it makes that preview, and there you go. Super fast. The best part is you've taken raw pictures and it's made a raw HDR. So there's no quality loss whatsoever. De-ghost is if anything was moving in those frames, people, cars, birds, what have you. If you're taking multiple exposures and something's moving through that frame, that de-ghost is going to help eliminate that. But in this case, we don't need it. So we're just going to hit merge, and Lightroom then generates that HDR and we'll drop it down here into the timeline as a new photo. And there we go. So you can see the shadows are exposed perfectly. The sky's exposed. We can see the sky. We can see the clouds. It's not too blown out. It's really nice. At this point, you just edit it as you would any other photo because it's still a raw picture. We can add new black points, new white points. If you want Lightroom to suggest where it thinks the best black point and white point would be, just hold shift and double click on black. Hold shift, double click on white. Pro tip there, you're welcome. That'll set both those points where it thinks they work best, and you could export at this point, or you could run some presets. You guys know I released a pack of 15 the other day, so you could roll down here and choose your favorite. Mine is Red Crush, so I just click that once, and then boom, there we go. Photo is edited to my liking, and you export, good to go. So that's it for me, guys. I hope you liked this video. Hit that like button if you liked it. Smash it if you so desire. I won't hold it against you. Subscribe if you aren't already, and I'll see you guys next week. So this is the photo.
Thank you. All right. Okay.
Okay, now everybody has to relax. They have to slow down.
I also have a quick question. Graham, you said when you do bracketing that you're not in aperture priority, you're in shutter priority?
Aperture priority does work. I tend to shoot manual. It's very rare that I do not shoot in complete manual.
Oh, okay.
But aperture priority works. The point that I was trying to make is don't change your aperture to do bracketing or focus stacking. None of those things really. If you're trying to do complex melding of different frames, aperture and depth of field really needs to stay the same unless you're choosing deliberately to move your point of focus. So that's the point that I didn't think came across clearly in that video. So aperture priority is fine.
Okay.
So
One of the things that goes by so fast in those videos, the 2-minute guy gets to it quickly at the end. But if you don't use HDR, chances are there are going to be parts of a photograph that are overexposed and parts that are underexposed. You're going to lose highlights and lowlights. And by taking those multiple exposures and combining them, you get the best of all worlds. And back in wet darkroom days, you made little wands. I don't know what else to call them, but you would put a piece of paper on a stick, and you would do what's called dodging and burning. You would, if there were areas that you wanted to keep from getting too much light so that you got the details, you'd wave this little piece of paper in front of the photo paper in the dark room so that area would not get so much exposure. And if there was an area that was underexposed that you wanted to get more light, you would burn that in. So it's basically an old darkroom technique gone digital. And virtually everything I shoot is in HDR, not everything. But even if you're shooting film, you can combine three film shots and use HDR. It's not something that I don't know how many are shooting film at all, but it is possible to do HDR with film just by processing 3 negatives. But anyway, it's a really, really good technique. And if you get your camera set up one time, it becomes very, very easy. And You know, you may need some coaching to get it done the first time, but after that, it's just a part of the workflow.
And actually, exactly what Mike was just mentioning is that you need to touch it, feel it, smell it. And for anyone out there that really wants to learn more about this, I'm willing to maybe meet at Farrington. And what we can do is set up a camera to take the photographs, download it onto a laptop, and go through the whole process of putting it into the software and coming out with the final image. So if there's somebody out here that doesn't know how to do it and would like to learn more about it, I'd be willing to meet.
Let's do it. Sounds great.
And I'm willing to help too. And let me just say that if you take Bill or me up on that that consulting idea, please bring your owner's manual, at least on a laptop or a phone, so that the cameras are pretty much the same for setting bracketing and continuous clicks, but there's enough. You don't want to waste a lot of time just trying to figure out where it is on your camera. If you have your owner's manual, it'll help.
So I have a question, Mike. How many
Yes.
images, when you're bracketing, do you do typically 3 images? He was talking in terms of 5 or even more.
Yeah. Virtually all that I do is 3 exposures. There are times when I'll take 5. I don't know that I've ever done 7. But a limiting condition for me is, unlike the advice that Graham and others in this group have given you, I don't usually carry a tripod. And so I have found that 3 is about all I can hold steady. And there's another thing underneath that. I have battery grips on all my cameras. It's something that screws onto the bottom of your camera that has a bigger battery in it. And it adds to the weight and the bulk of the camera. But the real advantage of, one real advantage, there are a couple, but one real advantage of having a battery grip is that they will undoubtedly increase your frame rate. Meaning, instead of click, click, click with your regular camera, you have a battery grip on it and it goes click, click, click. The frame rate goes way up, and I can hold it steady with the battery grip on, and maybe wouldn't be able to hold it steady if I didn't have it. So
Yeah, and even if you do move just the slightest, the software goes through a process of aligning everything before it brings it all together too. So you get a little pass if you can keep it pretty steady.
And let me say one more thing. Graham and I have kind of proselytized for Photomatics Pro. Lightroom will do what you want, so far as I know, because I don't use it, but it'll do what you want in terms of putting the image together. But a program like Photomatics Pro, which is like a $50 program with really long-term updates for nothing, there are all kinds of presets that show up for the HDR image in Photomatics Pro. And in terms of getting the best shot without having to move a bunch of sliders, you can do everything from just far out crazy versions of the photo to black and white. And I'm not demeaning Lightroom or the talent it takes to get a good photograph, but it really speeds up the workflow if you use something like Photomatics Pro that gives you some presets to start with at least. So.
Thanks, Mike and Bill. So I have a few points for you, or thinking topics. Number one is, it was implicit in those videos, but not explicitly mentioned. If you're going to do this, you really ought to be shooting raw. That there is, in my view, very, very little point in shooting JPEG and trying to do this stuff. Which brings me to my second point, which is if you're shooting raw and you've done a reasonable job of exposure, it's much rarer nowadays to need to do HDR. you can usually adjust a raw photo with a modern camera, sufficient that you don't need to do much, if any, HDR. So I'm tending to move away from, well, am I? I would do HDR if I had really bright skies and some shadow detail. I would do it then. But for a majority of pictures, it's much rarer for me to shoot bracketed now than I used to do. So is it necessary? And if you're processing well on a raw image, you can pull a lot out of the shadows that you might not have seen previously. So think about whether you need it. It's a good thing to do. This is one where I don't believe Lightroom is the best tool. In fact, you saw how limited Lightroom was when you're doing HDR. It gives you almost zero control over anything. So I love Lightroom to bits. I'm a big fan of Lightroom, but not for HDR. It'll get you a basic, but if Lightroom does a good job on it, you probably could have done it with a single raw image, in my view. But as Mike says, if I do want to do HDR, there are a couple of tools out there, one of which is Photomatics, that are spectacularly good and let you play a lot. There's no playing in Lightroom. It does what it does and it gives you it back. Okay. Pictures?
Let's see, we're going to discuss another get together.
Oh, we were.
Yep. And we're targeting June 9th, probably 10 o'clock like we did last time. And to keep it consistent, we'll meet up at the Roost as well. And I was wondering if it maybe made sense, because we've talked about filters on 2 different occasions. And I think there seems to be an interest in maybe having a little better understanding of filters. So, you know, if we do get together on June 9th, I can bring everything from the UV and the circular to the ND filters. I have a variable ND filter, full filters, graduated. So we can together, for those that are interested in it, you know, go a little further into it and actually see what it does.
So what's the date for that, Bill? Was that in the email, or are you going to send that out again?
That was in the agenda.
The 9th?
June 9th at 10 a.m.
And then for the next meeting, are we, I mean, can we structure that in a way like that we're going to, you know, use polarizing and other filters or whatever if we go out and shoot, and then show what we get at the next meeting? We talked about that at one point, that it would be fun to see if we have photo shoots together, see what other people have taken.
Well, I know, did we pick, and I've slept since then, have we picked a challenge for the meeting that would be after the one on the 9th, the in-person meeting on the 9th? I can't remember. If we have, it's probably not been announced.
No, we haven't.
Produce.
Well, that would be for the 8th.
Well, isn't
Well,
produce? The next one is produce, right? I mean, is that,
yes,
it'll be the one after that. Is that what you're saying?
yeah,
Well, that would work.
yep.
Yep.
Well, the steering committee talked about doing something like the challenge where we got an image and had to process it, with the idea that it would be interesting to see how different people saw the same thing at the same time, basically, so that you know, you may be taking a picture of a flower, but it all winds up being different angles, different whatever. So what Betty's suggesting is something that we've talked about, I think.
So we may have to pick maybe something in Farrington that everyone kind of can go and, let's see, just trying to figure a place. Because like off in the front of the restaurant there's a lot of flowers, a lot of trees. It could be a pretty interesting place to take photographs.
The 3 chairs are usually there too in front of the inn.
And the chairs that are often out there, the Adirondack chairs out near the pasture. Or maybe it's the pasture with the silo. That's the center of attention for it.
I thought that would be very interesting to do, to have one specific subject and say, everybody go for it.
Just not the cows. Their eyes are too hard to get. Black eyes.
Lying down in dirty lumps.
Although I've got some really good cow pictures at 5 o'clock in the morning when I was trying to get one of those eclipses or something like that going on. Well, I was not in the right place, but the cows were really going at it in the morning and having a grand old time. So I have all kinds of life of cow pictures if anyone ever wants to see.
So for the get together on the 9th, we'll do a little bit like last time. We'll wait for people to show up, socialize a little bit, crack out maybe some of the filters and talk about them. And after that, we can move on to a particular area of the village and see how each person interprets it. Sound like a...
Well, and it may well be that we don't pick a spot until we get there and see what looks interesting. We can announce the thing at the get together.
Yep.
Okay, that sounds like a plan.
Hey, Mary. Mary.
Yes, I'm here.
Talk to the group about your 2 thoughts.
Okay. Well, my first one may only apply to me, but I seem to get an awful lot of really bad pictures. And what I normally do is just toss them, and never look at them again. And it occurred to me it might be fun if one week we choose to turn in not purposely, but a picture that just didn't turn out the way we wanted it to, and then talk about what we think we did wrong. And then maybe the others could help and add to that. Was it just the whole composition was lousy? Was it the idea wasn't interesting? Or was it, should we have tried different lighting or different aperture settings or something? And I know that discussing my many failures, that would take too many meetings, but if I could just do one, it would probably help. And my second question or idea was, and this, I don't know, might be something just different, but now I have all these photos, and it's very hard for me to decide which ones to throw out and where to keep them. And I now have folders all over the place, and I'm not really sure how to organize or how to control the pictures that I've got. So I'd love some ideas on that too. So those are my 2 ideas.
And let me say this, there's an old adage, the difference between a professional photographer and an amateur photographer is that you never see any of the professional photographers' bad photos. Everybody takes them, but you just don't see the ones of the pro. And the other question, how do you catalog them? What do you keep and what do you don't keep? The answer to that is keep everything. Hard drives and storage is just really cheap right now. You don't have to throw anything away.
But then you never look at them again. I don't know. Anyway, that one just occurred to me after
Yeah, no.
bad ones.
I also notice sometimes if I'm looking through my pictures and trying to, throw away the bad ones, that if I have like 5 bad pictures of something, it's harder to figure out which one to throw away than if you have like 5 pictures and one is good and the other 4 are bad.
I have so many bad ones. If my hard drive ever just died, I'd say, yeah, I start from here.
Okay.
Well,
So
and there is something to say for keeping bad photographs. I have some that I threw away a long time ago that I'll be scanning through and trying to figure out what I need to throw away now, and mess with a photo that I thought was a bad one with the skills I had back when. And I may have learned something between then and now that allows me to get a good photo out of it. So anyway, good questions though. And I didn't mean to demean the ideas, but you know, they were good ideas. They're very good ideas. But
Sometime if we can, especially spend some time on, you know, what went wrong, what did I do, what does each photo. No, if we submit it knowing it's not a good photo, then we're not going to be insulted when people say, "Oh," but just
yeah,
what could we have done differently?
I think that would be fun.
That could be one of our challenges.
I like it.
Thank you.
All right.
okay, we're good to
I
go.
think we're on to the real stuff now.
Okay, let's see if this one will. Aha! You guys got
Ooh.
that?
yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Well, whoever that is, it's a really good one.
I believe this is AJ's. And I don't think he's here today.
No.
What is it? I'm having trouble seeing it, of course.
Well, it looks to me like the wood is a background, and it's just a spillway coming out from behind it.
Interesting. Beautiful shot.
Yeah, love it.
Works well. I like the
The whole
pattern.
line from the wood just draw you right into the center.
Yeah. Can you enlarge that at all, Graham?
It is full screen.
Okay.
Cool.
Anything else? Any other comments? What do people like?
Well, one of the things that I really like, and it's where the corners of the picture end, or what ends in the corners. And if you look really closely at the top left and the top right, the lines from the wood background are just almost perfectly even on both sides, and that symmetry really gets me. And Graham, the horizon, if there was one, is perfectly straight.
Yeah. Yeah. No Mark Herbuth award for this one, huh?
Nope.
I would have, this is one where I know I bully everybody all the time about keep working the location or the subject. I'm looking at the patterns in the water, which I think are amazing. And to some degree, they're really easy to overlook in this. That's my only comment about this picture, but I love them. I would love to see more shots that have worked the patterns in the water there. They're spectacular.
Yeah.
I agree. I love how the foreground is abstract, and it keeps getting progressively much more, what's the word? Not abstract, photorealistic. As it draws, as your eye draws, it gets increasingly comprehensible, even though in the end, I don't know where that water's coming from.
Yeah, I'd love to know where that is. I'm assuming it's not a composite. I'm assuming it's a straight shot. But knowing AJ, good job.
I wonder how he controls the light on that, because obviously whatever is at the back is very bright and what is in the front isn't.
Oh. Here we go. Okay. You got the next one? I think it's sharing properly.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my photograph, Tom. It's a wave.
It is. Are you sure? Talk to us, Tom. What were you seeing and thinking?
I just love. I just loved how dynamic it was, how rambunctious, and some of it's kind of focused, other parts are not. And I liked the calm sky, the empty sky, the calm sea, the calm land, and this tormented line wave in the middle of it all. I worked on moving the high point of the height of the wave to the third line to try to get that seemed to work. I don't think it's a particularly great photograph, but it's I like how dynamic it is. And I put another photograph in, and I thought of the two of them as being a pair, but I didn't see it there when I looked at it. And so this would be the dynamic one, and the other one is the other end of the continuum.
Yeah, Graham, I sent you two other ones. I don't know if mine's in there either. I sent you one from Tom and two from me. I don't know if you got those.
I believe everything is in there. We'll see.
Okay. Maybe it's there.
I may have just not seen it.
I didn't see the one that I sent.
So
yeah, I don't see the ones that I sent either.
No.
I don't see Tom's second one.
No, I don't see it.
Okay, mine is there. I do see mine.
Yeah, and I sent you two. One was sort of a blob. And then
okay.
there's the second one I sent you from Tom.
I'll work on that. So feedback for Tom. I'll take a look at that. Nobody's got anything to say then, huh?
Just makes you want to walk along the beach then.
I think it's beautiful.
Great shot. The horizon's straight.
I also like the foaminess of the before the wave.
Okay. All right.
Were you using, Tom, are you using a zoom lens on this?
No, this is a very small detail of a much wider picture.
Oh, okay.
It includes a lot of the beach.
Okay, I'm gonna quickly synchronize that, see if we pick up.
And there's the second one.
Yeah, they are. Okay. Okay.
There's the second one, yeah.
Okay, so
Okay, so this is the other end of the bookends, I guess. So kind of going to Mary's point earlier, this was a photograph that included the deck I was sitting on and all kinds of furniture and posts, and I struggled with it and struggled because the day was so atmospheric, and I wanted to capture the atmosphere. And I worked on it, and finally I thought, oh, this is just not happening. I can't make it happen. And then I was fooling around and just took cut out the post. It would be, imagine a post at either end of that photograph, at either end of the photograph, and this is what was in the middle between the posts. So it's actually what I was looking at, losing all of the other stuff. And I think it's really nice. And the other thing was that it was raining and I couldn't get the rain. I couldn't, obviously it was just came across as mist. So I went online and I Googled how do I make rain in my photograph, and the way that the person suggested it was to add a lot of noise. And I had already done that. I had tried adding noise. So I added noise and then did a motion blur on the noise layer. And that, and then I moved the angle so that it's slightly wind driven. And it's pretty darn good, but it looks to me to be clearly artificial. And since then, I've noticed that you can buy or download rain layers, and I wonder what they look like. Has anybody had experience doing that? And does everyone agree that this has a sort of an artificial, the rain has a sort of an artificial look?
After you explained it, it does. At first I thought, oh geez, that you just captured the mood. But now that you've explained it, you realized everything is lined up kind of. It's all.
Yeah, right. Parallel lines.
Yeah.
I think this is much the strongest image, Tom. It works. I think it captures a scene really well.
Yeah, thank you. I was like, oh wow, look, it's a photograph. And before, when I was fooling with it, it was like just a picture. So Mary, don't throw them away.
Oh no, some of mine really are deserving of being thrown away.
Very good. Thank you, Tom.
That's one of mine. The tame bird at the Carver Park.
I love that. The lights and behind his head is amazing.
How did you get that?
The bird is tame, and you just walk up to him.
No, but I mean the background. I
The
mean,
back, the light.
I was in the shade, the bird was in the shade, but the reflections, I played with the exposure over and over and over, on a laptop, I can't tell. I have darker ones, I have lighter ones. That one I gave up and said, to hell with it, and sent this one in, but I did nothing to it other than to sharpen it.
Well, I think the point is that if the area behind the bird's head had been in the darker shade, in the darker part of this photograph, it would have been lost. And as it is, it just highlights it. I mean, the head's just in the right place in terms of lighting. And the other thing I like about it is that you can see the whole reflection of the bird in the water.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got one that Graham has seen that I like better. His head is in more of an S shape, but the back is blown out, and I can't for the life of me get that to suit me. So I just sent this one in because I thought the reflection on the water was good. The other one's better, but I've got the issue of the blown out back on it. So
I think it's great. I love the way I just love the composition.
I don't see this as blown out at all. I think this is a good exposure. And I think if you're trying to do that on a screen, just using the image, you will find it hard. This is one where, you know, judging whether something is blown out or not, you really need to use a histogram.
yeah, it's the other picture I think that I had sent you last time for one to play with that has the blown out back.
Okay.
But it is even more intriguing. So in that case, I think there was less movement of water and you could see the reflection better and the bird's position is better, but the back is blown out. So this is
And some of this
Don't
being,
be dismissive of this one, Helen, because it really is good.
yeah, sharp. I mean, I'm on an iPad and it seems really sharp to me. I don't.
Yeah.
I notice
That bird makes it easy. I hope he's still there. I don't know.
I wonder how different it would have looked with a polarizer. You know,
Yeah,
particularly like
I was taking it. I thought I had a polarizer on and I had a UV on it. And that's JPEG, I guess. I don't know.
I was thinking because of the colors and everything, it would look fantastic printed on like a metal, you know, when you print stuff on metal.
Yep.
I mean, this picture has all the little nuances, I think, that would really shine.
I hadn't thought of that.
And I don't disagree with Betty. I mean, I've printed some things on metal that I like, and I think this one would look good too.
Mhm.
But this would be another natural one for canvas. It'd look like a painting.
Mhm.
Good job. Well done, Helen.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah, it's part of the duckling series. Well, not much to say. Actually, what I liked is I liked the water, you know, the circular patterns, apart from the ducks themselves. That was what caught my eye on this picture. And I know it has a lot of spots, and I started to retouch different things and then finally said it wasn't worth it. So
there was a pun to make about your comment regarding the eyes on it, and you really did catch the catch lights.
Mhm.
In both duck eyes.
perfect. Perfect.
Your photos just make me smile.
that's the point on this one. Anyway.
Betty, I mean, I think it's a great shot, and I think that if you do what I'm thinking about, you would have lost maybe too much of the circular patterns in the water. But if the frame could have been moved a little bit more to the left to get more of that duckling in, I don't know what's back there, whether there's anything that you cropped out that could be shown, but as I say, you would have lost some of the patterns in the water if you'd done that.
It was kind of messy over to the left. So
Yeah.
This was just kind of a random shot, you know, when I was at the creek taking many of the other duckling pictures, and it fit the water topic today. There's a second one that is a little, maybe we could look at the second one.
Oh,
This,
oh boy.
Amazing.
That's great.
That is really, really
something, right?
The
So
whole family.
yeah, I'm kind of curious about people's reactions to this, because this was one of those pictures that sort of was a throwaway because it was so dark, and you know, I had to cut it down a lot, so it's not as sharp in some places and whatever. And yet I couldn't resist the fact that the ducklings were pretty much facing one direction, and the mother just really caught my eye. So
That's great.
this is kind of an interesting thing, though. I don't know if anybody recognizes how you get all this white around the edge like that. That's the reverse of the vignetting. You know, when you can vignette it to black, if you move the slider all the way to the opposite direction and control, you know, the radius and the strength of it, and
Wow.
then
That's brilliant. That's
yeah,
brilliant, Betty.
Well, I mean, this is just in photos. And so the more I looked at it, the more I really liked it, because actually I was looking for a picture that had kind of yellows and greens and blues, but whites and stuff, for something that I wanted in my study. And I kind of liked the feel of it. It's really different than just a regular picture. So
You can throw these kind out my way if you want. I really love this thing.
Would you think I have a whole series of these that are all this, same coloring and white stuff? Because once I discovered it, I could take out every picture that I had of the ducklings and turn them into something. But I'm wondering what it would look like on canvas, or whether it would metal, canvas, glass. Glass. Anyway, it's a thought.
Good. Was this from the last
Absolutely.
week, Betty?
Yeah, this is from our outing.
Right. Yeah.
I think it was
Well,
from the outing, yeah. Or
Yeah,
maybe the week later I went back for another shooting.
I saw them all day before yesterday, and they're all the same size as the mom now.
Are they really?
Yeah.
cool. Nicely seen.
Yeah, what lens were you using, Betty?
I think I was using my 300. Yeah, I mean, because I was using it all the time on the ducks.
Okay. Who's laying claim?
Oh, that's mine.
Bill.
Gee, at the beach,
it.
surprising.
Like that.
Yeah, this was kind of my first kind of serious dealing with long exposures. We had this is down at Rodanthe Pier, and we're about 3 or 4 houses away from the pier itself. So 11 o'clock at night, it was kind of neat to be able to just walk down the beach a little bit, avoid the sand crabs, and take a few pictures. So this was, I think it was 30-second exposure down along the pier.
Yep.
And the one thing that I've done to this image since is I've cropped it more on the left, because there's that cross beam in the top left-hand corner that kind of draws my eye over there. So what I've done with the more recent one is to straighten the poles up a little bit and then get rid of that bright area. But, yeah, I shot this the full 30 seconds because I forgot to bring my remote with me.
Right.
And I shot it at, I believe it was f10, because I wanted to have it closed down enough that I got the starburst of all the lights behind it as well.
Yep.
And I made different things. I mean, I've changed this into black and white, which gives it a whole different feel as well. But I just like the little color of the poles in the front there that just kind of fade off into black and white.
Works well.
And plus that little crab down there, he posed for me.
Yeah, nicely seen.
I was wondering what that was. I was hoping it was a crab.
Oh yeah, when I walked the dog at night down there, the dog was having a ball.
Good job, Bill.
Yeah.
Good, really good.
Yeah, this is the other one while I was down there.
Beautiful.
I have it on the iPad, so I don't see it nearly like on the laptop. But yeah, this was from the deck of the house that we rented out there in Rodanthe. And at first I was taking long exposures and not seeing very much of the water, but I would get the stars in the background. And I was taking a 30-second exposure, I think it was, at one point. And all of a sudden a guy comes walking past the front of our house, walking his dog with a flashlight. And then when I saw the image, once the exposure was over, I said, oh, wait a minute, I got a flashlight. So what I did is I have this little $6 LED flashlight. So while I was exposing it, I just flashed out onto the ocean just to be able to see those waves a little bit better.
That
Nice.
works really well.
Yeah.
I love this.
Oh, really impressive.
And I guess it's, you know, this is kind of new, uncharted territory for me, but I'm starting to really enjoy the long exposure stuff.
Mm.
Well, if this is what you're getting, keep at it, Bill.
Yeah.
Good. Very good. Okay.
Ooh. That is gorgeous.
Anybody laying claim? Nobody?
Somebody should.
I don't remember whose it was.
Wish it were mine.
Practice, 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 and it could be.
Yep. No, it doesn't say. It doesn't say, sorry. So I don't know whose it is, but I think it works quite well. I like the fact that there's sharp and soft in here.
Yeah.
Nice.
This is mine, and this is, I guess I could call it the water dripping blob. So what it was is on the corner of my house, they have these holes in I have gutters, and so there's holes to let the water drip out, and there's supposed to be rain chains, but there's no rain chains. And last time it rained, which was a couple weeks ago, I took out my camera, and when the water drips, there's these indentations in the ground. So I took out my camera and took a number of pictures changing the shutter speed. But anyway, I don't know what you all think of this. I did adjust the darks and I did adjust the saturation. So there's water drops in here, and then on the left, that's where the water's dripping in. And that's what it looks like. So let me tell, so what do you all think? I know it looks a bit like a blob.
Well, it's abstract. It's an abstract.
Yeah.
Well, it has elements of both, because the leaf in the upper third, the right-hand third, it's sharp. So I like that. I think that works really well. And then the rest of it, you know, you have to explore to find it. You know, really explore the image and see what's there.
Because on the screen, I'm kind of enlarging it, and some of those drops in there actually have their own little thing going on from the reflections that are pretty interesting.
So the one thing I would ask you to think about, Susan, is that the bright bits on the edges let you out. I would have advocate for doing a bit of work here and here, and maybe on these bits that take you out, so that you keep me in the image, and instead of going off and out, I come back in and start searching again. But I think it works really well. I think it's fabulous.
Thank you.
Good thinking to go and do that. It shows that you can, you know, you get great images just in your backyard. Maybe that'll be one of our challenges. You have to stand within 5 feet of where you live and make images. Okay.
And this is also mine. This is a creek nearby my house. So just let me know what you all think.
I think your other image was stronger for me. I find this branch in the foreground a little distracting. I don't know where to look in this one.
Okay.
And again, you got these really highlight bits up at the back that drag me up away from what I think I should be looking at, which is probably down here. I think it'd be interesting to see this cropped because you've got all of your interest is darker except for this little bit here. And then you've got the bright bits all around the edges here and here and here that are really dragging me out from where I think you want me to be.
Okay.
So that, and plus the branch that's out of focus here, those would be things. So I would have moved, you know, a slightly different viewpoint. This is why you take people on your walks to hold branches out of the way if you have to be there, or put your hat on it or your tripod over it or whatever. I think, you know, this is one that needs a little bit of work, and you might go back and reshoot it.
Yeah, and if you have a tripod and slow down the shutter speed, you might be able to do something with the water too a little bit, because you're starting to see a little texture in it. So less shutter speed might give it a little different feel.
Okay.
Your other image was definitely stronger to me. That was spectacular. All right, who we got here?
That is mine. We recently were in Oregon and took a walk with the grandchildren along the Salmon River. It's called the Zigzag Trail. It's in the Mount Hood Forest area. And I was just playing with, you know, priorities here. And this came out the best. I tried to get rid of some of those light spots in the back. But what do you think?
I love the water.
Yeah, I really like it. Yeah, the only comment I would make is I'd like to see that rock in the foreground a little darker.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would help a lot. But it's great. What was the exposure on this?
I messed around with this post-production, so I can't remember.
Looks like a 13th of a second.
Okay.
Is that what it was? I was shooting like
That's
8, 9, 10, up to 13.
Right.
I just tried everything just to see what would come out.
So I'm with AJ, who sneaked in there because we already looked at one of your pictures and you were quiet.
Yeah, I had another meeting.
So I'm with AJ. I think just darkening down that rock a bit. And I think the top of the picture adds nothing. I would think about a different crop. And
Help! I love the background. I love it. The way the light lands on the lands in the woods. I was thinking, cut out the river and the rock. I love that.
It's the area is incredible. It looks like something out of Jurassic Park in terms of all the moss on the trees and the different. I mean, it's just incredible. Well, you know, Oregon, but it's just incredible. It was a wonderful path. I had one eye on the kids to make sure that my 2-year-old wouldn't be getting too close to the edge of the water, and but you know, so. But anyway, thank you.
I think it works. Good job.
For those on laptops or desktops, is the rock in the front sharp, or is it?
No.
Because maybe if put the focus point on there, because you're not really trying to focus on the waves, because the movement's going to give you what you have here in them. So maybe if could have moved the focus point onto the rock.
Yeah, I was just
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was thinking about the very same thing. And Larry, are you using any sharpening when you process these? Are you adding any sharpening?
I am, because I wanted to pull in a little bit more definition on the water that was coming in.
Well, I blew it up, and the rock. I mean, it's actually pretty sharp in some areas. There's some moss or something growing in the darker area that looks pretty sharp even at 100%. But I don't know. You've got an either or. I mean, Bill's suggested one thing. I think maybe you could do some sharpening just of the rock in sharpening as opposed to focal point.
Yeah.
You can't change the focal point at this point, but you can
No.
change the sharpening in the rock. So
That's a good suggestion.
Did you crop this? Were there more rocks?
Helen, I did bring it down quite a bit. Yes, the whole stream it was really flowing, really, as you can see, it was flowing really, it was almost like an angry stream. It was just incredible. There was so much to take, but there were trees right in front. So I had to get real close to the water in order to avoid those obstacles. So
The water is great.
Took 100 of them. But I thought this was the best. Who
I
knows?
think you should go back and take some more.
Nice shot.
Yeah, I'd like to go back and take some more.
Okay, job.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
So that's mine. We took with the grandkids. Oh, we went up by ourselves. Yes, that's what it was. Out of the 14 days, we had one day by ourselves. But we went to the rhododendron garden in Portland, which is it's beautiful at this time of the year because of all the flowers that are coming out. But they had a nice little artificial waterfall as a part of a feature in one section of the garden, and that's what I focused on. So, and again, I was playing around with the priorities, and I can't recall what I shot it at, probably a 13 or 10.
Eighth of a second.
An eighth. Oh, wow. Okay.
Larry, I think this one's super.
I had to get rid of the light. There was light coming in on the left bottom, and I had to get rid of that light. So I had to darken a portion of the picture and to try to, you can see the rocks and all the shining light coming through. And I tried to darken the bottom so it could highlight the little falls at the head there.
very nice.
I like it.
Thank you.
Nicely seen. This is Mark Herberth Award winner for the week. I don't know what went on at the bottom. I assume that's some problem with the image.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen that happen with corruption on files before, but I don't know whether that happened when I served it or whether it came like that. I can't remember. But I thought this was an interesting one.
Yeah.
He's at a big dam.
I can't tell whether she's doing a Vanna White thing with the dam or whether it's supposed to be her catching the water. I don't know.
I think the latter.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm guessing.
That's what she.
Yeah, but I'm torn with Vanna White, so there you go.
Right. So
if she'd gotten the top of the dam flat, her hand wouldn't have been.
Right.
Now, whose is this? Do we know?
That's Beth.
That's
Beth.
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 So it's a selfie, I think.
She's been in Colorado, so what
Yeah.
dam could it be?
Yep.
I was looking at her hand. It almost looked like it was composite at one, but maybe not. Okay.
I don't think so. Look at the hair.
Yeah, that would be really tough.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, you're right.
Yep. Yeah. The
Interesting. Quite fun. I think I quite like that one.
Ah,
Ooh, wow.
Oh, that one's mine.
Yeah, we could have guessed.
it looks like a painting.
I had fun with it.
Woo.
The only thing I would have done different after processing it is I had my car parked in the driveway, and it's a red car. You can see it in the reflection on the second watering can there. But other than that,
Yeah, and AJ, your history causes my next comment. How did you Photoshop that faucet up there with no pipe under it? That's a joke. Okay,
that's not Photoshop.
I know. but somebody that didn't know or that does really know your history, they would have thought, well, he Photoshopped that in there. That's not possible.
Excellent.
That's great.
Nicely done. They're all gone quiet. Okay, must be running out of time. Oh, actually, I think we are at. Hello. Now I'm not getting any response at all. There we go. Come on. Oh, there we go. All right. I think that's it. I think we got everybody's.
And AJ, by the way, your first photo got pretty good grades too.
Okay, I had fun with that one.
Where was that?
That's actually a fountain in Arley Gardens in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Huh.
But I added some water in the foreground.
Wow.
We're trying to figure that out.
All right.
Well done, really well done.
Excellent. Excellent stuff. All right. Any questions, comments?
What's the next challenge? Did I miss it? I
was just gonna say that it's produce.
Produce. Okay, I did see that in one of your emails. Now that I think.
So I expect to see a bunch of people at the farmer's market.
I just was going to say I'm going to the farmer's market this afternoon.
I'll see you there. No, we are. We planned on going to the farmer's market. It was funny, but yeah.
What I'm waiting for is to see if anybody gets arrested at Harris Teeter taking pictures of their displays and being what kinds of comments are going to be made about that person that's got a camera and is taking a picture of fruit.
Well, some years ago, my wife and I were over in Spain, over in a restaurant. Not in a restaurant, in a grocery store. I mean, they really make it look beautiful. And my wife was going around with her little camera, and sure enough, people came up to her and said, no, you can't do that. It was in Vinderos. Yep.
Good meeting you all.
Okay, folks. Thank you again. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you all.